Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fran O'Prey. I'm the marketing manager for Codec-dss. So I'm just going to take you quickly through just a brief overview of the company, and I'll hand you over to Brian O'Hanlon, who is our Dynamics AX lead here in Codec-dss. So the duration is going to be just 30 minutes long, and then after that, Brian will take a Q&A session with everybody. The title of the webinar is Budgetary Control in AX 2012 and Integration to Microsoft Office. It's the third of our Dynamics AX webinar series. And just a little bit of background about the company. We're an Irish company. Been in business since 1985. We have 127 employees across Ireland, UK, Germany and Poland, where we have offices. 30 million plus revenue. We're profitable, debt-free. Also, we're a Microsoft Gold partner, and we are the Dynamics Partner of the Year. This is just a brief overview of the services we offer today. Obviously, Brian's going to be talking about Dynamics AX, the ERP application, but we also offer CRM, XRM applications, enterprise performance management, business intelligence, business productivity, infrastructure and hardware fulfillment, as well as managed services and service desk. And these are just some of the customers that we have, just to give you a quick insight. So that's it. So I'm just going to hand you across to Brian O'Hanlon, and Brian will take you through the webinar, and he'll start off with the webinar topics.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian O'Hanlon. As Fran has alluded to, this is the third in our series of webinars. In the information you should have had sent out, these webinar topics should be familiar to you in terms of what we're going to cover today in general terms. The chart of account structures, budget control, updates of the budget templates once they're set in Dynamics AX. We will refresh the information into Excel, and then we'll publish that information back once it's updated back from Excel into Dynamics AX. We can have a little look in terms of what notifications we have in terms of those budget updates and additional controls which are available now within Dynamics AX 2012, and just have a little chat further in terms of the project management and how that differs slightly from the normal budgetary controls, and just a chat really about financial tools which are available, other financial tools which are available via Microsoft. So just before I open up the product and we'll work through an interactive example, I just want to give you an overview of how this example or this scenario is going to be flowed through. Firstly, we're going to look at an organizational chart of ourselves here, Codec-dss, across different companies. Fran mentioned in the company information to start with about we're in several different locations and we have several different legal entities. Obviously, Dynamics AX can manage any requirements in terms of the complexity of organizations and businesses in the current environment. And there's a new organization management module we'll be looking at within AX 2012. Then we will set up something called an accounting structure, and just the abbreviations there is main account, legal entity, business unit, and cost center. So we're looking 4 levels down. Obviously, that's similar to Oracle Financials, for example, in terms of flex fields. So this is new to Dynamics AX 2012, and that accounting structure combination is unlimited. We will then apply those particular organizational hierarchical setups are going to be applied to accounting structure, so we can see when we're entering a budget template, we can see that it validates as it goes. Then that budget, as I say, into Excel and back, update in Excel and back out. Then we'll have a look at an example. We just have a look at some of the additional features in terms of the control mechanisms surrounding budgetary control, and we'll finish with some reports and KPIs in relation to the budget information that we've entered. Okay, without further ado now, I will go into the product itself. Okay, if anyone has seen Dynamics AX before, AX 2009 even, they would be familiar with the role center. Now this particular role center I have set up for the demonstration today is the central financial officer of an organization who has some major top level KPIs in relation to the goal, the budget, to his actual results in this given period, and we can see some sales figures in this given period. We have over here just some notifications, which is the work list. Notifications can be from alerts, or they can be from batch jobs, or they can be from workflows. So there's a whole selection here. I went into this in a lot more detail in the last two webinars, and Fran will send details of those again as a follow-up. So we'll go into more detail in those webinars if you'd like to look at them. Okay, so into the actual organization hierarchies. So in terms of the look and feel of the product, again, very briefly, this should be very familiar to you in terms of different companies you may have access to. I'm obviously logged in as the administrator today, so we have access to everything based on the particular roles. I have the role center associated with the central financial officer because that's most pertinent to doing a demo in relation to budgets and budgetary control today. We can see that particular role, but normally you wouldn't see all the companies, you wouldn't see all the modules. Based on the role, you would only be limited to certain modules, certain companies based on the role setup. So we'll be looking at the modules in relation to general ledger, budgeting and organization administration, and we're finally going to touch a little bit on project management and accounting today. Okay, so again, different ways look and feel, either through the ribbon. This should be very familiar in terms of using Windows Explorer or Internet Explorer. The look and feel is very similar to that. There's also icons to allow you to navigate as well. And just to save a little bit of time today, because time's pressing, I've set up what we're going to cover within my favorites here. So I'm going to go firstly into organizational hierarchies. And again, as I say, we've got a selection of hierarchies set up to do with Codec-dss. We're going to look primarily at the CFU. This is our company here. That particular setup, and that setup is from the legal entity down, and we've selected, in terms of our budgetary control, we're going to set the budgetary level based on business units and cost centers within our organization. So if we just view setup of that. Okay, so one of the legal entities in our organization is DSS Ireland. So this is the legal entity stage. You can see the organizational type down here. We also then move down to the next level down, which is the business unit. And I've selected my particular business unit, ERP here, and then move down into cost centers associated with our ERP. This can be structured as, this is just a straight editable, and it's a drag and drop in terms of setting up different organizational types to work out the hierarchy from the company downwards. It doesn't have to be done this way. This is the way it is in this particular example. You could have cost centers, you could have departments, you could have business units interlinked in different ways. Just as per the example here, you'll see in a minute the application of this particular hierarchy. Okay, so from the hierarchy itself, we just close that, and we'll just a quick aside, consolidation. If you have consolidation as well of companies, you can pick all the companies within your group and then consolidate based on all the legal entities. So then it's a single click at the consolidation stage. As you can go back here and you have a look at the actual purpose itself. There's a link which says all those companies are going to be consolidated into one into one set of results at the end of the month. Okay. And again, there's a separate one there for shared services. So if you would like certain cost centers, for example, finance or HR, to be shared across maybe at the group level, then the actual the organization can be set up that way. So those particular cost centers are set at group level, and we can have procurement shared, for example, through purchasing, and again at group level, maybe you would want to control your expenditure control, all expense reporting by group for the organization. So into the configuration of the accounting structure. So remember, we have a legal entity, we have a business unit, and we have a cost center within our organization hierarchy. Now we're going to apply that into a general ledger chart of accounts. This is all the background in terms of building the validations surrounding our budgetary control within Dynamics AX. So within here, we're saying we're gonna break out here accounting structures that relate to profit and loss differently than we would set the balance sheet accounting structures. So obviously more detail you would need in relation to cost centers, for example, within your P&L, which you wouldn't want to see within your balance sheet. Now you could have different P&Ls, or you could have, should I say, different account structures set up for each organization. Or you could say, well, you know, if we have several organizations within our group, the way we would do it here, and we would have one chart of accounts, and then we would have one accounting structure which would validate across the whole group. Just for simplicity here, I've set it just up for our particular company. We set the organization hierarchy up before. So rather than having to set the business units and the cost center links again, remember we had a business unit which was ERP, linking to cost centers which were training, etc. Rather than setting that information up here within Edit, we've set those relationships linking back to the relationships which are back in the organization hierarchy. So we've set the relationships to do with the business, the cost center, and the legal entity. See that one tick there, it's legal entity to business unit. Don't really need to be reset up here. We can use the graphical method within the organization hierarchy, which I displayed before, and that is used to validate all these valid combinations for this particular legal entity. Okay. So if we move into the budgeting module, and we can see here we have an example setup of a draft budget. So we're just going to edit that. And if we look at the dimension values, which is the accounting structures that are set up, and you can see there within the main account, I've picked a main account which relates to P&L to do with service revenues, a business unit that relates to ERP, and then a cost center that relates to design. And I'll just enter another line here so you can see that if you enter a new line, that the validation that I spoke about from the accounting structures is actually validated within here. So can't impress enough the time and effort it is to actually set up all those validations correctly, because the more information in terms of setting up the validation and using a graphical method, it's easy drag and drop to set up, and it's easy to apply. It's not a good idea to set this up afterwards, or the time that's wasted in my 16 years of experience of implementing ERP systems, the time and effort, if you don't get those validations and setups correct at the beginning, it's a pain in terms of budgetary control. Budgets are set at the wrong levels within the organization, and then if it's a bottom-up approach, if you then want to look at particular business units, P&Ls for particular business units, you're not going to get the correct level of granularity within the budgets that are set up and the actual results which are actually matched to those budgets. So I'm going to select the same revenue account, which is services, and now at this particular level, again, I can only see here the particular business units which I'm allowed to see, and then the particular cost centers, which was design, build, and train. So I'm going to say train in this particular case, and I'm going to put this figure in as 1. So this is in effect building up a template. So you'd build up a template for all the dimension values that you would want within your organization. Some other information within here is budget models, for example. You may want to have a budget model which is an overbranching budget model for the whole year, but you may want to have separate models which would relate, say, to reforecast every quarter. So if again, just a little bit of look and feel, navigation around the system. If I go into view details, I'm drilling into all the setups of the current budget modules that are available in this particular setup. And as you can see here, there's the sub-models which are available. So I could have set up another budget model, which was the Q1 reforecast, for example, and link that back to the overall yearly budget model. So you can have different budget models, for example, if you want to use them from a security perspective and send different budget models out to different people within your organization. One way to send those out would be for different budget models. But again, another application, as I say, is for reforecasts. Just some of the other information here, which find useful, and companies have certainly asked us here to implement it previously, is the ability from we're looking at service revenue here, but if you were talking in terms of manufacturing and you wanted to have a look and want to record sales volumes as well as sales values, what you would do is you can put volumes in terms of quantity in, and the dimension values, the accounting structures, would have to be extended to include items within your accounting structure. Then you're able to put product and volumes per product in to calculate an overbranching sales volume as well as a value. So I'm just going to change that there to revenue. So again, you would carry that out and create your template as if it's for each budget model that you would like. So in terms of that information, I'm just entering just some basic values at the moment. What we're going to see now is we can go into Excel and disseminate that information out to other people, and when the information comes back in, we can load that information back through one particular CAL license. The budget manager, for example, would have the ability then to load that information back into this template. So just going to refresh, and we can see the lines which are added to our last journal. As you say, it's in draft status. Okay, so let's now look at this information within Excel. So Excel, as long as you have Office Excel 2010 and onwards, there is an add-in available within it to add in relation to Dynamics AX, and this is a dynamic link directly in relation to certain transaction services, one of which is the budget template, to pull information out of Dynamics AX and then to publish information back into Dynamics AX. So firstly, I'm going to refresh the information within our template. So before, remember, it was just one line and we added a second line. So if we just refresh all the information, and we can see our second line now. So I'll touch on different options in terms of this is the scenario we're running in terms of one budgeting manager would have one license, full license for Dynamics AX, the information would load into Excel. Then he would copy that information into various other Excel spreadsheets and send them out via SharePoint, for example. Have the information back, load it back into this template, and then publish it back into Dynamics AX. So let's assume he's copy-pasted and this particular budget holder's got back to him and said, for this particular cost center, and said, yeah, well, that information needs to be for this particular year, 120,000. Okay, so we've updated that information. We're going to publish that data. And if we just check the status, we see that the record has been published and it's been successful. So let's check back into Dynamics AX to see if that update's actually happened. And if I just press F5 to refresh, and we can see that the revenue figure, as per the Excel spreadsheet, on published is published back into Dynamics AX. So again, just to reiterate here, budgets, 10 people from the point of view of end users, particular budget holders. 99% of budget holders used Excel for pulling budgets and bottom-up budgets. So the idea is here is to let's not change the world for them. I will send you some links later to do with other options in terms of using Microsoft Forecaster and I'll explain in a bit and budget management wholly and exclusively within Dynamics AX itself. But we feel it's the most optimum solution for any organisation is to have a budget manager in control of that link between Excel, templates in Excel, and a template within AX, and then disseminate the information out from there using SharePoint. So back into Dynamics AX again, and we see that's been updated. Okay, so that particular budget's been updated. If we go, this is still a draft at this particular stage. Now, I'm just going to leave it as a draft for now. And as you can see, the particular information in terms of this is revenue related. So the budget in relation to the revenue hasn't updated at this particular point. What we would have to do, this information here, if anyone's familiar with SQL, SQL Server reporting, services, and a couple of the services are reporting services and analysis services. Analysis services is in effect creation of BI cubes associated with, can be from a Dynamics AX perspective, BI cubes. So it's basically offline metrics. These particular KPI metrics are updated through analysis services. So what you would normally do is set this to run overnight. Why that so? Some information in Dynamics AX is real time, some information isn't. Anything to do with KPIs, anything to do with charts won't be, because it's quite complex calculations going on in the background. So to optimize the throughput of transactions, volume of transactions through the database throughout the day, the likes of metrics to do with KPIs are done in analysis services. So analysis services, what you would normally say, is set that to run overnight. So I'm just going to update that information now to include that, the additional 120,000 of revenue in this current month. So to say this is the general ledger cube here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it again. And as I say, this is just replicating a process you would probably have running overnight. Okay, so that's finished. So let's go back, check our information here. I'm just going to refresh. And the 2558 should have 120. Let's see, it's just loading up the refresh. And because the 120 has been replaced because I didn't do the budget update for every single different combination of what we set up in terms of the business unit and cost center and the accounting structure. It overtypes what's currently there. So you would have to make sure that every single time you load this information up, it's a full load of all the information in association to the all the cost centers and all the business units at one time. So that information is actually updated, and we have some actual figures there at the moment. So so just showing you there in terms of the KPI, in terms of updating that using the analysis services. Okay. So as I say, those KPIs can be updated within analysis services to say we will only pull in information that relates to completed budgets as opposed to drafts. Just for the sake of quickening up this demo, I've said just draft information pull in, just in case it takes a little bit of time to update that particular journal and post it. So just looking back at the budget register entries again, this is the journal we've created. Other pieces of functionality. So you may decide at this particular point, you may decide that you want a budget holder to just put in a total for the whole year for the full 12 periods, and the total is 120,000. So if I edit this, so you could say, well, we could set up a full budget, and every single month they need to build up the budgets that way. Or you may say, for practicality terms, we're going to say we're going to enter 120,000, and then what we're going to do is allocate it across the 12 periods. So once that's updated by the budget holder, it's sent back to yourself as a budget manager, and you upload it from Excel back into Dynamics AX. Once you have 120,000 there, we can allocate that against. You can allocate it evenly, or just for completeness, I've just say you can allocate it evenly here. We can see the 120,000 has been reversed out, and it's been added to each one of the other periods 1 to periods 11. There's a slight rounding difference there on that. Okay, so it's up to the way you run your business. You could say, please provide the budget in total, and then you can use the ability to use a period key. See, I have a further period key here, so I'm just going to take the information, just look at this particular period key here. And I'm just going to right-click and view details, just to show you how different that is to just allocating over 12 periods. This particular one, you can actually dictate yourself. You could say, right, we know we're a food company, and we make most of our sales in the summer months. So if you were working from January through to December, you could say for those summer months we would take 15%, 13%, 14%. So you're skewing the budget in relation to where your actuals are likely to hit in terms of your volumes. So again, it's possible to set that up, and you can apply that to just one particular cost center, one particular business unit. At this particular case, I've said, well, that particular, it's called period key, is set up and can be applied across any combination of accounting structure. So we had a look at reports in terms of the KPIs and the update of those KPI reports. If we just have a look now, just close this down. We just want to have a look at what else is available as far as budgetary control. When we actually updated our budgets, by the way, we received an additional notification because we had an alert set up to say the budget's been changed. So we had an alert sent to us to say the budget's been changed. So in that particular case, you may have several budget holders having access to load up budgets themselves, but the financial controller, or in this particular case, the central Financial Officer of the organisation would receive a notification for every single budget that's actually been updated. So you can go in and check those notifications, which will be sitting here on his dashboard homepage every single day when he logs in on the machine. So he doesn't have to go looking for budget updates. He can see who entered them and when. So you can go into that and read. Just preview that information. Okay. Also, these notifications are actually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Sorry, there's the actual. Just check the journal and the time, the date, and that's the actual last one there. That's been actually updated. So there's other ways you can check notifications of any budget changes. One, as I say, is via alerts. Another way would be if I look back, and I'll just go the long way into this and just have a look at the budget workflow. So a budget workflow can be set up so the information can come back in from Excel, and it can sit there as a draft budget, and at that particular time there's a notification sent to the budget manager or the budget controller, who would be the last line of defense for finance in terms of checking that budget to make sure that budget's okay before they publish it and actually post that particular draft budget. Okay, different ways of doing it. The way I've set it up here, as I say, is just to do it via alerts, notifications sitting on the dashboard. So finally, if I go back into setup again, and we'll just have a look at budget control configuration. Now, we decided, back to our accounting structures, we've decided that we are in a particular legal entity, so we don't need to add that here, but we've got the main account, business unit and cost center. Now, I've aligned that with the GL. Obviously, if you're actuals and you have your budget, you want to be able to compare the two like for like, but you can make that difference if you want. Now, notice here I've set a budget threshold to 90%. That means that any of those combinations above, in terms of the main account, business unit, cost center, as soon as a GL posting gets up to 90%, there will be a message sent to the person who's responsible for the budget. So the budget manager, in this particular case myself, the administrator, would receive a notification through to say we're coming close to a budget threshold. So why are we coming close to a budget threshold? You might be happy with it, you might be expected or not. So you can set those budget thresholds that are at the top level, but you can set those budget thresholds for each cost center if you so wish. And then you can decide within them to say, you know, are you happy with those particular, so the over budget permissions, you could say some particular groups, budget holders, you're quite happy. So from a revenue perspective, you're happy for people to go over budget, but from a cost perspective, you wouldn't be. In terms of funds available, how to do that calculation to see if it's close to threshold or not. Dynamics AX includes commitment accounting. So the American phrase for that is encumbrances. Pre and encumbrances. Pre means from purchase requisitions, and encumbrances mean from purchase orders. So you could say, well, we're going to include those costs because there's a commitment to purchase, or same way on the sales order side, there's a commitment, there's an acknowledgement, and there's a commitment to actually recognise sales. So based on the configuration, we could say what is actually included in terms of commitment accounting, if we so decide. Particularly relevant to different sectors, particularly the likes of the public sector, and this is where the functionality is in there. But a lot of businesses will include commitment accounting in their analysis, for example, of cash flows. Okay. So we could say, in terms of those particular thresholds, what are we going to include? Where are we going to apply that 90%? We're saying, yeah, for purchase orders, for supplier invoices, for expense reports. We're saying we'll stay away from encumbrance accounting or pre-commitments accounting and purchase requisitions. But again, this is all editable. And just finally there, within the activate budget control, we can switch these thresholds on or off. So if we can decide to switch them on or we switch them off, we can decide to switch them on for different budget groups and for different main accounts, different rules. So it can be quite complex in terms of all the rules that you can set up in relation to it. We've said here that within our main account, business unit and cost centres, doesn't matter which combination of these you would look at, it's 90% across the board. As I say, it could be a different percentage based on different main accounts or different cost centres, for example. So, just finally, just wanted to touch on project management and accounting. So, again, this gives us a level. Now, if we set up back to our accounting structures again in the general ledger, we have the ability to add, just down to setup here, we have the ability to add 29 different financial dimensions into our accounting structure. Okay, here's some of the ones here. Now, we haven't decided, but we could have added projects within that. If we'd added projects within that, then we can set a budget in relation to individual projects for a particular cost centre, for example. Then if we just move back into project accounting and management, and we look at a particular project setup, and again, we could do we can do a new webinar completely just on project accounting. So I'll just keep this very brief and high level here. But in terms of this particular sub project for this main project, and if I just edit that a second, we can actually go in and set budget and forecasts at this particular level as well. So that will look at the total budget, and it's looking for that 90% threshold which we were talking about earlier. So we can set that up in conjunction with the budgetary control settings we were just looking at before. That's the only module you can actually set that up. Normally it would just work within the main account and those accounting structures, but you can actually go in, and as I say, I've added the business unit, the cost centre there, and the legal entity there, so it will look at the particular threshold, and we can decide if you want to switch it on or off at the project level within the project module. Okay, that completes about half an hour from the start. So we started a little bit late, so I just want to go back, come out of the product now, and move back into the slides, if I may. So just a summary of what we looked at here today. We've looked at AX 2012, and we've seen the interactions and integration of other Microsoft technologies, mainly Office Excel 2010 for using the transaction services to pull information out of Dynamics AX, update it, and publish it back into Dynamics AX. We've referenced in short some of the other ERP solutions, the likes of Oracle Financials, for example, Flex Fields, if anyone's familiar with those. That's what the accounting structure now does within Dynamics AX 2012. And hopefully we've shown Dynamics AX to be a powerful, simple and agile solution. And finally, many vendors will work with scripts and will work with data that's pre-prepared data by Microsoft themselves, because we're a US hi-fi company. What we try to do is show our knowledge. Hopefully we've showed our knowledge today, and we've actually applied that to our particular business model here in Codec-dss Group.